Hello, and welcome back to the Holistic Health and Hormones podcast. I'm your host, Eli Huang, fertility coach, Chinese medicine practitioner, and advocate for healing your body, mind, and spirit. In today's episode, Regulate and Release EFT for Nervous System Balance, we're diving into the transformative world of emotional freedom technique, or EFT tapping, a simple yet powerful tool that helps calm the nervous system, shift emotional blocks, and bring your body back into balance. If you've ever felt stuck, anxious, overwhelmed, or disconnected from your goals, this episode is for you. We'll explore how EFT works, why regulating your nervous system is key to creating lasting change, and how tapping can help you release deep emotional patterns holding you back so that you can move forward with clarity, confidence, and calm. So whether you're new to tapping or looking to deepen your practice, this episode offers grounding insights, practical steps, and an invitation to reconnect with your inner peace. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Holistic Health and Hormones podcast. Today, I'm super excited to have Andrea Hunt, who is an EFT Empowerment Coach who helps ambitious entrepreneurs achieve their goals faster with more confidence without getting stuck in self-doubt, imposter syndrome, overwhelm, or self-sabotage. She believes that too many talented professionals hold themselves back, not because they aren't capable, but because fear, perfectionism, and limiting beliefs keep them playing small. So through a powerful combination of transformational coaching and EFT tapping, Andrea helps her clients break free from these patterns so they can stop overthinking, take bold action, and finally step into success they're meant for. She knows firsthand the biggest obstacles isn't a lack of strategy, it's the mindset that keeps people from fully owning their expertise. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you so much for having me, Ellie. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so look, I am really interested in getting to understand EFT because as a Chinese medicine practitioner acupuncturist, we understand meridians, energy lines, and I'd love you to explain to our listeners mainly what is EFT, first of all, and sort of how did you come across it and what got you involved in EFT?
Sure. Well, so first of all, EFT stands for the Emotional Freedom Technique. And actually, Roger Callahan and Gary Craig were very interested. They came up with this in like the early 90s, I believe. They were very interested in acupuncture and acupressure, which you do. And so what they realized is that if you tap on the points, obviously you don't need the needles, but if you can say certain things, then you can end up releasing the negative emotions that the person is experiencing. So they started kind of working with veterans with PTSD and people with phobias and anxiety, and they found that it was really, really effective. So fast forward, I had never heard of EFT until I think it was around 12 years ago. So I came to Munich to do my master's in media communications. I was an older student. I had completely forgotten how to study because I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but yeah, when you go back in your mid 30s and like you've forgotten how to memorize things. And I was completely freaking out. Like I had 3 finals exams in 1 week and I couldn't study. I couldn't retain the information. And of course, you go into this spiral and the worse, like the more stressed you are, the less, you can relax. And I was like, okay, I'm going to meditate and I'm going to walk around and nothing helped. I couldn't eat or sleep. It was a total disaster. And I Googled, how can I stop panicking right now? And I found a Brad Yates video and it was literally called Fear and Panic Right Now, Brad Yates. EFT. So write that down, everybody, by the way. But I was like, okay, you know what? I will try anything at this moment. And so I did it. I mean, because I was literally trembling and just panicked. And about 10 minutes later, I was like, I kind of feel a little bit better. Like I don't feel perfect, but so I did it several more times and I had felt the calmest that I had in a whole week. And so then I started doing more of his videos, learning more about it and how it works and everything. And so then finally, when it came to my coaching business 10 years later, things would come up for people. They'd be like, oh, I want to do this video reel for my business. And I'm terrified to, put my face out there. And I'm like, okay, God, I want to use this, but then I got certified. So that's fast forward how I integrated it into my business after getting certified myself. So
Oh, nice.
about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you talk about emotional health and nervous system regulation. I guess these days, so many people are in fight or flight, whether it's just everyday things or they're constantly under chronic stress. So, how is that so important to regulate our emotional health and our nervous system? So essential to being able to reach our goals, whether it's our health goals, personal goals, career goals, short or long term goals. Why is it so important that we have those emotional regulations, sort of balanced out?
Well, there's a couple of things. That's a really good question. And the first one is like, it's really hard to show up confidently if you're frazzled, burned out, and you're stressed. Like I don't know if you've ever had one of those mornings where like, you wake up late or whatever, you like, snag your, sweater on the door handle, you drip your coffee on the floor, and then everything is just going wrong. And if you don't stop to be able to emotionally regulate and calm yourself, usually the rest of your day just kind of gets worse and worse and worse. Like
Yeah.
whereas let's say that if you were able to take the time in the morning with your routine to ground yourself, I don't know, and let's say you're outside of the house and like I don't know, somebody splashes water on your shoe or something like that, you'd probably be like, okay, that sucks, but like it's fine. I'm gonna just
Mm.
keep going on with my day. And that's the difference is like whether you can
Reacting, right? The reacting.
reacting versus responding, and being able to recalibrate when something happens. Because the truth is, we cannot control the world around us. We can control ourselves and our response.
Yeah.
And so many times, I know that I was the person that, like, one thing would happen in the morning, I would be thrown off the entire day, and I would be ruminating about it, and like, why did she say that? Why was the guy at the bakery rude to me? Wait,
Yeah.
and being like, "You know what? Like, why am I giving this person my power?" Like, what am I what do I care, like, about what that person probably got in a fight with their, partner this morning? It has nothing to do with me. Like, why am I
Yeah.
taking this on?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
exactly. So it's about shifting. So knowing these, I guess, techniques, right? They can instantly shift in the moment, or is this something that obviously people are doing daily, or is it in that moment of stress that you tend to sort of look at that mind body connection?
Good question. So for the emotional health aspect, that is something that is helpful. I feel like on a daily basis in terms of grounding and regulating yourself. But where I really integrate it into coaching, is more of like, deeper work in terms of, why do you have fear of public speaking? A lot of times people have these inner stories, things that happened to them in childhood. Maybe they, got up in front of the class, showed their picture. The teacher said something critical. Everybody laughs at them. So they walk around their whole life thinking like it's not safe to be seen. It's not safe to be heard. When I
Yeah.
put myself out there, I get ridiculed and made fun of. So often, these things are in our adult lives and we don't always connect the dots in terms of, what is causing that fear and anxiety in those certain
Mm.
moments. So with EFT, with these different sequences, whether it's going back to that childhood memory and tapping on that, or being able to finally articulate it. Because a lot of things that cause fear and anxiety come from us walking around the whole time being like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like fear?
Yep.
No fear. I'm fine. I got this. And then your
Yeah.
your nervous system is like, no, you don't. And
Hmm.
so and so we're masking all of this and we're not allowing ourselves to articulate it and let it out so that we can release it and actually feel empowered to be by changing and shifting from I can't do this. Who do I think I am? Everybody's going to laugh at me too. You know what? Like I have done a lot of new things in my life. Like I'm always learning and growing. I might be not be perfect, but I don't have to be perfect. And just making that shift and that reframe into being more gentle with ourselves, loving with ourselves and more compassionate so that we can feel empowered and build confidence as a muscle and not think of it as like something we have to like switch on and off and like, go into automation,
That's a
automated
good
mode.
way of explaining it. Yeah, muscle, like strengthening some sort of muscle. It's like even neuro pathways that you talk about. And a lot of that unprocessed emotions, even from when we were younger, a lot of the things come from, obviously unresolved trauma, unresolved emotions from usually childhood years, right? And they can really impact us as adults. All the decisions we make all come down to our inner child conflicts and things that we haven't worked on. So, it's extremely important that people understand the emotions, the self-doubt, all the traumas and things and work on those. Because most people, they might not work on it until there's a time they're like, why am I behaving like this? And they don't know where it's come from, like you said.
Right. I mean, and the thing is that I think a lot of times people don't even want to discuss these things because it's not
Yes.
a comfortable topic to be like, why aren't you doing it? Well, I just don't feel good enough. And the fact is that a lot of people feel like they're not good enough or they don't deserve things or being afraid to be shamed. That's a huge one, especially I feel like these days with like social media and everything like that. People
Shame's a
are
big
just,
one.
yeah, shame and like putting yourself in the spotlight because it's like,
Mm.
okay, if I'm in the spotlight, then I'm failing very openly. Why can't I fail quietly? You know, and
Well,
anonymously.
you're not seen by just a couple of people. Like these days, you're seen by whoever, hundreds, millions, even, right? And so if you're putting yourself out there, you're going to have to deal with the good and the bad sometimes, right? You're going to get people that comment, even though, that's not what, you're going to get the trolls or whatever. And so people are afraid of, not being good enough. I think it comes down to that. It's self-worth, good enough, worthiness, love is a big one. It's all that sort of deep, deeper sort of underlying core things that we all want so much of. And if it's not being regulated properly, or even when we're younger, we're not being seen, being heard, being loved by our own parents, it definitely, like you said, plays out in adulthood. Yeah, it's so important. So I guess the role of nervous system play and how that keeps us stuck. So if we're always in fight or flight, right? It can keep us stuck, I guess, as adults, or if we're in business, or if we're in a corporate role, just even patterns of, I guess, procrastination, like you said, self-doubt,
Mm.
and even burnout. So burnout's a big one. Let's talk about like sort of burnout and things like that for a lot of people that aren't really regulating their nervous system very well and what that looks like.
Absolutely. Well, burnout's an interesting one because there's so many different components. I mean, there's the external one, obviously, like
Yes.
having your boss who's not letting you, relax on the weekends and stuff like that. But there's also a lot of internal kind of contributors, whether it's like, perfectionism. Like we have to stay at the office until 2 o'clock in the morning because it probably would have been good enough at 9 p.m., but we're going to keep, we don't trust ourselves, so we're going to keep changing things. Or the people pleasing aspect of like,
Yeah.
always being wanting to be the helper. So if people know it Friday night, they're going to be like, hey, can you just finish this last thing? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Or not wanting any help, like not wanting everything to be perfect and not allowing, ourselves to delegate. So there's all sorts of different things in terms of that. I mean, and of course, in the end, I mean, in order to not burn out, we have to be able to regulate our emotions and also take the time for our self-care and also allow ourselves to have that time without judgment as well. Because I think sometimes there's this misunderstanding that we like have to deserve to relax. We have to deserve
Yeah.
self-care.
To give yourself
Like, what
the
did I do enough to like
permission.
deserve
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
You almost have to give yourself permission or schedule in a time of self care. Like, even I'm always telling my clients, you have to schedule it in. Otherwise, and I myself am guilty,
Right.
I schedule in. Sometimes you're like, oh, no, I haven't finished this from this morning. I'm meant to be doing self care time now. It's like it can slip away, right? But it's so important that we got to look after ourselves first and foremost before, we're in any capacity to look after anyone else or people around us or even at work. So it's so important to really understand that. Yeah. So can you really go into a bit more detail and really go in depth into really how EFT helps to shift someone from, I guess, that fight or flight or that chronic stress or even the acute stress into that more calm, empowered state? How is it working? What are we saying? What are we doing as we're tapping? And why is it so powerful? Because I know with acupressure, it's kind of like we use it more for a health perspective. It's like I'll teach people points for if they've got a headache or if they've got back pain or if they've got nausea, or they've got indigestion. I will usually use it more acupressure more for, okay, you press these points, it's gonna shift something more in a health perspective. But you were talking about EFT, I guess, and I understand emotional, sort of that emotional regulation more so rather than a more of a health perspective, which is what I'm coming from a Chinese medicine background. So I'd love for you to just go into depth with some of the listeners who've never, who might have heard of it but don't know how it works and how it is really shifting, even in that sort of short term, out of that acute fight or flight.
Sure. Well, I think one of the things that it's most helpful for is that, like, a lot of my clients are smart, ambitious women. And so they have all these dreams, they have all these goals.
Mm.
But what happens is when you want to get outside of your comfort zone, it's not comfortable. And then, of course, your
Yeah.
nervous system, kind of goes into this activated fight, flight, or freeze. And
Mm.
so, what can be so frustrating for people is that they feel stuck and they can't get out of it. They know what they want to do. Like I've had clients who they had a book that they were writing for like several years and then they had it like ready to go with the publishers and they just like couldn't send it. They just couldn't send it.
Right.
or the website that they were working on. So people get into these like mysterious behaviors, of like, why am I procrastinating this? Why am I doing everything else but the thing that I want to do? Like, I've been wanting to do this. I've been wanting to take the time, and it can be really frustrating. And then there's like a lot of judgment because people feel really bad about it. They're like, I don't understand. This is my dream. This was my goal. I finally am trying to do it. Why am I, stuck in fight, flight, or freeze and not doing it? And the truth is that a lot of people have hidden resistance and hidden fears that come up in the moment that they're trying to get out of their comfort zone. And just the things that we outlined already before, people are going to see me. I don't want to fail. And then there's the other one that most people don't think about is, what if I succeeded? I couldn't handle it. That's
Yes,
a
the
huge
fear of
one as well.
success, right? We've got a fear of failure, but there's people with a fear of success as well. Yeah.
Exactly, because for a lot of people, it's a nice, safe thing to have this like dream that they never really start on because they're not going to fail on it and they don't have to actually, do anything for it, but it's a nice, safe dream. So where EFT comes in is, first of all, like I said before, being able to kind of articulate how you're feeling and actually get honest with yourself, because a lot of times when we're just telling ourselves that we're fine, it's like you have your brain and your body doing two different things and you're saying another, and it's just, you're not in alignment with trying to move forward. And when it comes to the confidence part, you have to get to the resistance and the fear before you can. It's like polishing a dirty plate. You have to get rid of and like clean it first before you can do the reframing. So you would kind of do a setup statement and, you'd be like, even though I'm terrified to do this Instagram reel, like I deeply, completely love and accept myself. Even though I'm totally terrified to do this Instagram reel, like I'm deeply, completely accept myself. And then you just kind of let it out. You like go through everything. Obviously, when you're working with a practitioner, there's many different tapping techniques, but just for the general, you can just be like, I am terrified. Like, oh my God, what if they see me? Oh my God, my old boss is going to see me. Oh my God, that's going to be awful. Like, just get it all out. Keep going and going and going. So you have no other like what ifs left, in your brain.
Ifs, right? It's the what ifs and the shoulds.
Because we will just spiral out of control with, oh God, what if this, and my, I don't know, ex-boyfriend from high school, and he laughs at me, right? Until you can finally get that down. And what we do is we rate it with a number. So 0 to 10 at the beginning, like how activated are you feeling? What are your top emotions? Is it fear, anger, shame, whatever? And you rate those so that after you do like a couple rounds, you're like, okay, where am I now? I was at a 9. Okay. I feel like I'm at a 6. Then, you need to keep going down at least till you're like maybe at a 3, a 2 or a 3, and then you can move on to the next thing. And then once you've done that, then you can go into the more empowering statements. And for me, like I always had a difficult time with affirmations because I think there's a side of my brain that was just like, you're kidding me. Like you're, I'd be like,
same.
I'm a powerful person. And your brain's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like even
you
don't
say
believe
it, and then the belief. I think with those statements, you got to say them, and the belief comes later. But when you're saying it, and there's some sort of doubt, it's not really going to resonate, right? So you've got to start with a very simple sentence, almost like you've got to take these stepping stones before you can say, I'm Wonder Woman, right? Or I'm as powerful as Wonder Woman. But you got to say, I feel slightly confident in myself to do. You got to take, I think, little steps to before you get from 0 to 10, right? It's got to be
totally.
And that's the thing with affirmations. Yeah.
And what I do like in my workshops is like I teach people to kind of like start from the beginning. Like I'm open to the idea that I could be good at.
The basics.
Just open to it. Okay. I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I'm open to loving myself. Like I'm willing to believe that it's possible. Because if you can be open, willing, and able, you can start to clear some of the resistance as you're tapping. And so usually it depends, because some people have so many layers of self-judgment that they just can't get there immediately. And you really have to go through many rounds and be like, okay, where's the judgment coming from? Why are you not good enough? Usually they have a story. Okay, so what happened during the story? Let's go through the story, tap you down from that. And then you can keep going to usually towards the end. I mean, it takes usually like an hour for them to at least kind of get to a place where they're like, okay, you know what? I do deserve more money, or I do deserve whatever good thing that they didn't think that they could have before.
It. And how long does the shift take usually? Like we're looking at minutes, just for that small thing, they can instantly start to at least be open, and that shift, you can see that shift, or they can feel it within themselves once they start tapping?
It really depends. Like for the lighter emotional work,
Yeah.
like if you're just stressed about, I don't know, doing something very simple, that's
Okay.
something that you can feel the difference in, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes. There's
Yep.
tons of YouTube videos, tapping solution app or whatever. If you really want some of those things that have to do with core beliefs,
Yes.
it depends on what yours are because it's kind of like an onion. Some people
Yeah.
need
Layers.
one session, some people it's really like 10 sessions because what most people find is that in the sense that it is like an onion, you kind of peel back the core and then you're like, okay, there's this thing. And then this is linked to this. And like, we have all of these stories. And especially when it comes to not feeling good enough, we have a lot of stories that really validate those core wounds that we
Yeah.
have to go at individually, so
And
that
they've
we
been
can
there for a
clear them.
long time. And most of these wounds have been there, like I said, since we were children, especially if we're grown adults, in our 40s, 50s even, right? They've been there for
Absolutely.
decades. So yeah, like I said,
Absolutely.
like the onion, it's layers and layers and layers of just peeling
Mhm.
away and getting down to that core. So
Yeah.
yeah, it can
But it
definitely.
is quite interesting because even like, I mean, even with one session, I mean, like I had one client that, for example, she really, really wanted to go to the gym. She was like, she had some weight issues when she was in high school. She got kind of bullied a lot, didn't feel very good about herself. And this was already like in her 50s. She decided she wanted to kind of go work out, but she couldn't get herself to go to the gym because she was afraid of the judgment. She was like, they're going to shame me. They're going to say something. People are going to mock me and I'm going to feel bad about myself and I'll never be able to go again. And that through one session, we were able to get to the core of like, not feeling good enough to taking her power back and being like, you know what? Like, why should they decide if I get to go to the gym or not?
Mm,
Like, I'm 50 and it's time that I'm going to start an exercise routine. They don't get to decide. That's my choice and my decision. And screw
yeah.
them if they don't like me.
Yeah.
If they don't like me, like that's not my problem. They're
Yes.
probably,
So that's amazing. I guess like just touching on that, what kind of goals, I guess, in terms of you just covered a health goal, that are financial, even a fertility, relationship, any of those sort of goals, do you see EFT really helping people to be able to make the most changes in, or in all of those areas, really?
Sure. I mean, like in terms of relationships, boundaries and being assertive are really important
Mm,
ones
oh,
because
yeah.
a lot of people, and this is, I include myself in this, I had to learn this. Like, if you are not used to having boundaries, or like that's not something in your family that you just do what they tell you to do, then
Yes.
it's
Yes.
a hard thing to learn because then you're like, okay,
Ah,
now I feel bad. Wait, are
yeah.
they going to be mad at me? Like, and so those are the kind of things that in terms of sticking up for yourself, it's really good to be able to kind of do it beforehand, pair yourself and ground. Anything that has to do with self-esteem, feeling better about yourself, especially, I mean, you mentioned health things, body acceptance is a huge one. I feel like with women
Yes.
especially, I mean, we often really struggle, and no matter what phase of life that we're in, to accept our bodies and just feel confident or sexy or whatever. And the tapping can really help to release some of those fears, especially about what other people are thinking about us.
It's huge for women. I mean, we go through so many different phases in our reproductive cycle. I've dealt with
Right.
teenagers who feel really bad because they're starting to go through hormonal acne and they're being judged
Yeah.
and they're like, I look ugly, and especially if they're sort of in the arts and they're performing and all of that. Sort of I had a client who was like that as a teenager to
Mm-hmm.
then, if they're going through weight gain and whatever in their 20s, and then to being pregnant. Some people don't want to get pregnant. They're scared they're going to not get their bodies back. And then they're going through all of that. And then again in menopause, right? So with me and what I see in women's health, which is my passion, my niche I sort of work with, it's all of those, like you said, the ups and downs of all the different phases of women going through in their different reproductive cycles. And that shifts and changes. Then after babies, right, it's different again. So there's so
It's a
many
big, yeah.
changes. Yeah. And our goals change and our lives change so much. And so it's really getting people to understand that, it's not shameful. We do need to come back to this is part of natural, part of, evolution, or part of, especially if you're going through children and that. And then even with our health goals, I mean, there's obviously a reason why people gain weight. And I usually find it's because they've gone through something stressful or something extremely, traumatic. And then they're stressed. Obviously, the body's in fight or flight, right? So they're no matter what they do, they just can't shift the weight. And it's about coming back to love, grounding, right?
Mhm.
And that's when weight can shift. It's when you're in that state of calm and love again for yourself. Yeah. Do you see that usually with clients as well?
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think like what you said, I mean, I was just thinking, even the fertility thing, anything that has to do with like a mindset thing that you're just not
Correct.
able to change. So it's just like, anything from can't do this. I
Yeah.
am like, these I am statements that we have about ourselves are so powerful, and they can be very positive, but they can also be very negative because people
Hmm.
also tend to say things about themselves that, like, if they're honest, they would never talk to a friend like that. They're just like, "Oh, I'm
Exactly.
lazy. Like, I'm not smart enough to do that. Like, oh, I'm stupid." Like, and you would never call a friend like this, or hopefully like a child, you wouldn't speak like this to another
No.
person. Nobody should talk like that. But then when it comes to ourselves, so many people realize just how judgmental they are. And
Yeah,
that's a
the
block in
language.
itself because you
Yes.
have to be your own best cheerleader, and if you're not supporting yourself and
Yeah.
believing yourself, who is? Who's going
That's
to?
right. Yeah, you're not even your own advocate, right? I mean, you're sometimes more advocating for other people than you are for yourself. And that's just the language that we even say out loud sometimes. I mean, imagine all the thoughts. I mean, people don't know. We have like, what, 80,000 thoughts a day. So if
Right.
most of it is negative, how can we shift anything really? How can we be good in a good emotional place? Like I said, we can't really tap into anything if we're in that negative state. We need to be in that grounded, positive state for us to attract that sort of energy. And I think that's where EFT is so powerful. It gets us to get back into that balance where we can then achieve the manifestations or whatever our goals and desires are. We can't achieve them from a place of lack and disappointment and fear and judgmental, for ourselves. So yeah, we
Right.
definitely need to be at that in that sort of grounded space and that open space. Like I said, like if we're open to it and we're allowing us to be in that space to receive, that's when it's going to happen.
Right. And that's where, even with the affirmations, when you're doing it with the tapping, it
Mm.
feels more real. And you can get yourself from
Yeah,
like,
you're actually
I'm
physically
not
doing
good enough,
something at
to
the
like,
same time.
okay, maybe I, like,
You're actually doing something at the same time as well as saying it. So I guess when is the best time or frequency to start tapping or working towards your goal? Is it something you do daily, weekly, situationally? What is it different for every person?
so it depends on what you're looking for. I personally do it every single day as a grounding activity. Like, I'm kind of a
Okay.
hyper person, and if I don't channel my energy in a positive, helpful way, it kind of can turn into stress very quickly. So I
Mm.
always am kind of recalibrating. For most people, I feel like they kind of start, when they have like a stressful situation, because that's when they kind of are willing to try it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have videos on my YouTube channel about like stress release or confidence. And then, I mean, I also do workshops all the times that are, have to do with limiting beliefs and getting outside of your comfort zone. So you can try like a 20-minute tapping session as well and just feel
Yeah.
the difference of going from like, I'm never going to do it, to like, you know what? I think I'm ready to take my first step tomorrow. You like just
Mm.
have that first shift that moves you forward, that first like sit up if you're trying to make a six pack, just to
Yeah.
be like, okay, all right, I'm
Yeah.
moving forward. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
because it's so powerful. I mean, but like the deeper work is always something that usually comes with a lot of, what we call like emotional baggage, that is better to work with a practitioner, because
Mm.
there are
Yes.
a lot of emotions, feelings, and stories that we have,
Might
both
open
like,
a Pandora's box or something.
yeah, I mean, because yeah, I mean, I know through my healing journey, I mean, I did open up Pandora's box when it comes to my
Hmm.
childhood, and then I was like, I had forgotten about that. That's why that's there,
Yeah.
and just that's why you want somebody that you can trust to kind of hold space for you as you're working through these things,
Hmm.
so that
Okay.
you can clear them and heal them.
Yeah, so I guess wrapping up, are there any sort of common misconceptions about EFT that's out there that you sort of that's common? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest ones are that it's like it's just woo woo.
Yeah.
It's
A
just
lot of things
it's
people don't
woo woo, like,
understand is woo woo, right? Even
because I mean,
acupuncture, people think it's
because
woo
it
woo
looks
from.
funny. I mean, I remember that, like, when I saw it, I was just like, I don't get it. Like, why is that? Why does that do anything? And I think the other one is people think it's a placebo effect. But if you look, I mean, there's now over like 100 different scientific like publications about it. Now it's accepted by, it's like the Australian Psychological Association. There's books by like Peter Stapleton, who's a doctor, and there's Dr. Dawson Church. But you can look online and see that they use it for veterans with PTSD and people with
Yeah,
severe sexual
amazing.
traumas and phobias. And they used it in Rwanda for the genocide, also at Sandy Hook after
Wow.
the shooting in the United States. If it were a placebo, that would be miraculous if they could,
Mhm.
but that's not what it is. I mean, it's actually, it's calming the amygdala in the brain and
Yeah.
also giving endorphins and getting your body out of that fight
Vital.
flight
Yeah.
response. And even for trauma, which I don't personally deal with like severe trauma or anything, the reason that it's amazing for veterans is that, as you know, like with regular talk therapy for somebody that's had a traumatic experience, the more that they talk about it, it can actually reactivate and re-traumatize the person by making them relive it. And with tapping, you can have them focus on the memory without having to talk about it. And you can still release the emotional charge of the memory that happened and the situation, which is the most powerful aspect of it.
That's right. Yeah, that's really powerful for sure. So I guess if someone who's listening feels overwhelmed, anxious, or blocked, what is sort of a simple thing that they could start to do right now to reset?
Sure. Well, the one that I always tell people to do, like if you don't know anything about tapping, you've never tried it in your life, but you're just, let's say you're on the subway or something like that. So here on the collarbone, it's actually right there below my
Kidney
necklace. Okay?
27 point. Yep, that's how we call that the spirit point.
So this is the one that, like, if you breathe in through your nose for 3, hold it for 3, and then out for 3. Do this about 10 times and it will calm you down. Like I've had people who are like literally about to have a panic attack. Just like breathe in. And even after about 5 times of doing it, sometimes it might take you 3, but just if you can't do it the whole 10 times, even if you're on a bus, like I've done it on the subway, I've done it, if you're walking and you're starting to panic or freak out or whatever, just sit on the bench on the side of the road or whatever, sit in your car, whatever you can, or go to the bathroom. I mean, if you're at work, I seriously tell people this, like, excuse yourself from the meeting. If you're like feeling like this, go to the toilet and be by yourself and just do that simple tapping on your collarbone. And you will really find that that's a quick way to calm yourself down without everybody really noticing what you're doing.
You don't even need to say any affirmations, or you don't need to say anything with it, just tapping. It's more the breathing and tapping.
Just tapping.
This is in Chinese medicine perspective, that point there releases all of the emotions. So it's a major emotional releasing point. So that's probably why you went, with that point. So it's very powerful. I needle that point a lot for people actually for their adrenals for fight or flight. So it's a lot of people, I come in, I feel their adrenals. Yep. They're always stressed. And so, straight away they'll get one of those points in a session 90% of the times. Yeah. But they could just tap on that. Very powerful. So I guess, go ahead.
Right. I was just gonna say as the last thing, and if you do start to feel calmer, you can say things like, I am okay, I am safe, like this kind of thing. But generally I find if you tell people to say things, they think too much about saying it right and not about the tapping part.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. We're doing something else, also getting out of our body, out of our mind and into our bodies more as well. I think that's also a thing with EFT. Is it more just getting out of their mind as well as just going, more grounding and being more present in their bodies?
Absolutely. And especially just as a side note, I'm as an ADHD person, it's really hard for people who they don't have a tool to emotionally regulate to be able to do it with meditation. And meditation is such a fantastic tool, but it does have a very high learning curve that for a lot of people, it's hard to start.
Sit still or to sit
get
still.
any results. Exactly, especially when they're stressed. And so with tapping, it is good as a distraction to focus on something else and to be able to breathe and just kind of get back into their body and release that negative energy as they're kind of tapping through it. Yeah. And for a lot of people, they've never had the opportunity to do that. They've either okay, go run or just sit there and be still. And sometimes those two things are not possible.
Yeah, that's me. I used to be a runner. If I get stressed, or I used to love going for a daily run or a workout or something. But they can just do this anyway, even on the trail. Like you can't just go, gonna go for a run now.
Exactly. I'm a treadmill or a swimmer. I just feel, but you can't always do that in that moment. Sometimes you have to go into a meeting in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Very practical. So I guess where can our listeners go to learn more about EFT or start their own journey or their tapping journey with you? Where can they start if they're newbies to EFT and go, oh, this is really interesting. I'd love to learn more.
Sure. Well, so my website is dreahunt.com. That's DREAHUNT. And I'm also going to give you a link, Elliot, to my free ebook so people can download that. They can just learn a little bit more about EFT, how it works, some of the things that we've talked about. And then I've got YouTube and TikTok and everything. They can find me with Andrea Hunt, Living Deliberately Today, EFT Empowerment Coaching.
Beautiful.
They just Google that. I'm everywhere.
Yeah, we'll post it into the links. Thank you so much for introducing us all to EFT. And I know people have heard of it or they're like, oh yeah, really, sort of, but never really delved deep into the understanding of how it works. So it's great to be able to just, yeah, see how powerful it can be. And I love acupuncture. I've been doing it for 15 years, and it is just this beautiful, beautiful system where if we can just really understand the energy, meridians, and just really get ourselves into that grounding state instantly, or over a couple of minutes, we can really make those shifts pretty quickly. So thank you,
Absolutely.
Andrea, and thanks for having you on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Holistic Health and Hormones podcast. If you found today's episode inspiring or informative, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps us reach more people just like you on their journey to vibrant health and balance. For more tips, resources, or to work with me directly, visit my socials or websites. And remember, your health is your superpower. So keep nurturing it, and I'll see you next time.